I could listen to Oscar Peterson all day long. In fact, I'm pretty sure I have spent whole days doing nothing but listen to Oscar Peterson.
Hey, your dinner's getting cold.
All right, I'll be there in just a second, dear.
But why is it that I can listen to him all day and never get bored? He always sounds fresh, hip, and swinging. His playing is never monotonous. And of course there are a million reasons for that. He is Oscar Peterson, after all. But I want to focus on one particular thing that I've observed over my years of studying his music. I'm going to break it down for you over one of Oscar's pivotal recordings and show it to you in action. But most importantly, once we understand this idea, we can put this same idea into our own playing with just a little bit of practice. Let's look at a song over each of these 3 albums. We're going to listen to 2 sections from each of these songs, and I want you to see if you can figure out what the pattern is. Our first album is Bag's Groove from Night Train, and here's the first part I want you to hear. Okay, here's the second part. The next song, Tonight, is from the album West Side Story, and again, I'm going to show you 2 parts. See if you can recognize the pattern. And Oscar really kicks on this tune. And here's the second clip from Tonight. Have you picked up on anything yet? Here's a hint. Pay really close attention to how his 2 hands interplay with each other. This example is from the Oscar Peterson Trio Live, Volume 2. The track is Girl Talk. Here's the first section. And here's the second clip. Oscar swings so hard in that last clip. It's ridiculous. Have you picked up on the trick yet, though? So in the first example of each of these 3 pieces, Oscar is soloing with his right hand, and his left hand is accompanying himself. He's comping with his left hand. It's kind of like the right and the left hand are separate instruments, like the right hand is a horn, and the left hand is the rhythm section. But in the second example, both of Oscar's hands are working together. They're rhythmically locked. Both hands are playing the same chords and in the same rhythm. You might hear this called locked hands, or maybe playing with handcuffs. It's kind of reminiscent of George Shearing's style, but Oscar uses his own more modern sounding voicings. So here's the deal. Songs start to sound monotonous when they sound the same for long periods of time. And because of that, if we want to avoid sounding monotonous, we have to introduce variety. And there are lots of different ways to introduce variety. We could change tempo. Maybe we could switch from a 2-feel to a 4-feel to give a double time change. You could change the volume between playing soft or playing loud. You could change your articulation from a smooth legato to a swing intonuto. You could play with sparse chords or rich full chords. Or you could play with low energy or with a fiery virtuosic energy. You're a great musician, so I'm sure you understand this already. You want to take your listeners on some kind of a journey over the course of the song, perhaps starting someplace with a lower energy, building it up to a higher energy climax, and then bringing it back down again. But this method that Oscar uses gives us so many more options. With all of these different ways to add variety, we can use any of those with either of these techniques. If we were comping behind our own solo, like in our first examples, we could do that with a lower energy. But you could also ramp that up to something with higher energy. Or if we want to, we could bring it up even more. We could bring the volume up and we could play with crisper, sharper articulation, and that'll make it sound even more exciting. These are all kind of table stakes to play professionally, but here's the thing. We can take the same ideas to add variety and we can apply them to the locked hands technique as well. So we could do locked hands with a softer, lower energy. Or we could use our locked hands to play something bigger, more full, more high energy. So Oscar has given himself kind of a multiplier. By using these two different yet contemporary styles, he has more ways to vary up his playing than the average performer does. And with all of these options, he can keep his playing sounding fresh and hip for longer. Now, of course, Oscar wasn't the only artist to do this. He certainly wasn't the first one to do it. But if you listen to just about any current touring artist, that could be Corey Henry, Larry Goldings, Emmett Cohen, you're going to hear all of these people who were inspired by Oscar do very similar things. But I think there are few pianists that have pioneered this technique as mainstream into jazz as Oscar Peterson.